I remember the very first time I watched myself up on the screen. It was at the Man Chinese Theater when we premiered Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I was not allowed to watch any footage while we were making that movie. So the very first time I saw it was up on that screen. It was at our premiere, fully edited with sound and music. And that moment I remember distinctly because that was when I fell in love with movie making. It was also when I fell in love with acting.
Hi, Dean. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Shabazz.
Hi, Daniel. Hi, Shabazz. How's it going?
Good. How about you?
Great. Wonderful. I'm like new to doing press, so this is it's lovely. It's fun.
So far, you're doing great. I mean, you got your name right.
Yep, nailed it.
His name right too, which is good. Yeah. First and foremost, I just want to thank you for your time today and joining us on the movie podcast and hanging out. We haven't stopped talking about this movie since we watched it. We were just so in love with Marcel, and what a beautiful film you've made.
What a journey.
Thank you.
How are you feeling now that it's now out that this film's now out in the world? Marcel is now on the world stage. It must feel strange for you that it's now just everywhere. I feel like I'm seeing this movie everywhere too now, which is amazing.
Oh, I hope so. It's totally weird, you guys. It's like I don't know if you've ever worked on something for like years that was just living on a hard drive and you had like a private relationship with it. And then now people are like quoting lines back to me. And like, I mean, that was torturous actually, because people on the crew, multiple people were like, Dean, this is so annoying. Like, I have all these lines I want to quote to like my boyfriend or whatever. And he has no idea what I'm talking about. The movie's not out. But yeah, it's unbelievable and surreal. And I just feel really grateful for all of it, really.
Of course. And now, we had the two short films and now the film. What was it like, the journey from those original shorts to now feature length? What was it about Marcel's story that you wanted to tell on the big screen?
Well, when the character first sort of blew up on the internet so long ago, Jenny and I, we just made it for ourselves. It cracked us up. We really let this character, we just really loved. And we kind of felt like we took a bunch of meetings with studios and stuff, and they really were seeing the potential for Marcel to be like a next Minions or something, but they weren't really invested in me as a creator or director. And we sort of walked away from those deals being like, okay, well, what's the version of this that we want to make? And by that point, we'd had kind of been living with this character for years, and we had built so much about his world and his house and his family and his community that it felt like we wanted something that could really showcase that and could really showcase the I don't know, like the emotional depth and complexity that we knew we had like developed but had not really made its way into any of the shorts or anything.
Right.
And so yeah, we just started thinking about, well, if we're saying no to putting him, selling him to like Disney and doing the action movie version of Marcel The Shell, then like what what is there's a lot of like he gets lost in the big city, or he's partnered with John Cena and they fight crime, and like,
oh wow,
it's part of the Avengers, right? That's
yes, exactly. The Marcel cinematic universe. And
you
the MCU. And so that forced us to really think about like, okay, what do we want to make? And I always wanted this to be a movie that is like, there's no reason. I always felt like there's no reason to blow him out to make him go like fight terrorism or whatever. Like he's already living in a world that is so outsized to him that why, he actually loses what's special if you try to do that. And so we just started workshopping with Liz Holm, our producer, and Nick Paley, our co-writer, about smaller stories that we could tell, but still hit those kind of really ambitious, emotional, cathartic beats.
Right.
So that's where we started from. I don't know if I answered your question.
Oh, it did. It definitely did.
I mean, you know, Isabella Rossellini plays such a beautiful performance as Nana Connie, and I noticed on Instagram you posted all these different drawings of potential ways that she could have looked. What was it about the voice of her character that made her so special?
Oh man, that character like changed so much once we cast Isabella, because the process and the way that we wrote it was pretty unusual. But one of the great things about it is that it was it was like we do 2 months of writing, and then we do like a couple days of recording audio, and then we do 2 months writing, and then a couple. And during that audio record, we would, we'd record what we'd written, but then we'd say, all right, that line's not working, or hey, can I just get some sounds of you chewing, or hey, can you like, can you tell me a story about your childhood? Like, it was a lot of. I was committed to trying to make it. Give us sort of documentary constraints as much as possible. And so that involved finding actors who were going to be really generous with their selves, with putting themselves into the character. And so we were so kind of fortunate, like that process allowed Nick and I to record with Isabella, get to know her, and then start writing this character towards what we found to be beautiful and surprising and funny about Isabella herself. And it just lent Nanakani like so much specificity, and the things that I love and I'm like, I just think are so awesome about that character are all the things that I thought were awesome about Isabella once I got to know her. Like, she really is like a pretty strong, like, she has real metal to her, and she actually does know a ton about farming and animal behavior. She lives on a farm. She has a master's in animal behavior.
Wow.
And yeah, and some of the audio that's like in the B-roll-y kind of textured moments where she's showing me around, like showing me her strawberry and stuff, that is actually just me interviewing Isabella for real on her farm, being like, tell me about this plant. So so she walked. I think we got lucky that she gets offered tons of stuff, but she says no to most of it. And what she really loves to do is to like challenge herself to work in a way she's never worked before. And I don't think any of us had ever seen a movie made this way. So
sure. And you even got to put yourself in the movie as well. Now, did you feel like, okay, I have to be Dean, or did you kind of want to bring a little bit of a different element to your character?
I think I'm playing it. You can like, you can't really make, or it's much harder to make art or tell a story about that's personal that you don't have any distance on. Like, it's probably also not healthy. But so this character, I would say I'm playing a version of myself that's from like me, and it's like me in my mid-20s or something, actually.
Right.
It's a little more, it's a moment of growth that I, as a guy in my like later 30s, have a handle on. In a way I didn't back then. But no, I actually didn't want to be on screen at all. And I like was truly, it just, my producers were like, I think you have to. And I had to watch the movie and realize like, yep, they're right. That's where that character has to go. He has to stop using the camera as this distancing tool and, or as, I don't know, armor, and actually like show up for Marcel as a friend.
Right. And I think that's so beautiful in the film. And I think just seeing you, sit next to Marcel in the film, I just love the perspective of that, and just literally just looking at the size difference, and that's what's so, there's such a sense of wonder in Marcel, and the way you shot this is so beautiful because you're seeing everything in the world, even just the everyday mundane things in this world, in the house. You're seeing it through Marcel, and it just feels just so grand and huge. And I just love the perspective, right? And I just love the way you guys shot that. And I just wanted to ask you about just the ingenuity of Marcel traveling and everything like that. You guys must have had literally a ball with the tennis ball, just like this is how Marcel's going to travel. This is how we're going to get from point A to point B. And it was just so cool. Any obstacle that Marcel came across, I'm like, how is he going to get to that? Like, what was your thought process behind this like movement in this world, in this human world?
I mean, what was really cool about the process of like almost locking the audio, or mostly locking the audio into like a radio play, and then beginning to store Kirsten Lepore, the animation director, and I kind of sat down and just boarded the entire movie out. And what that does is it actually puts you in Marcel's shoes, and no pun intended, and forces you to say like, okay, well, in the movie we have this scene that's in the living room, and then we have a scene that's in his stockpile. Like, how is he going to walk up a wall? And then you you have to. You're painted into corners all the time that you have to find your way out of. And so a lot of those ideas came, I mean, we thought of maybe half of them, like Nick and I, when we were writing and editing all that audio, but then half of them came out of like necessity of being like, all right, how do I do this? I'm tiny.
Now obviously we're gonna need a sequel, and we're gonna need a bigger sequel as well.
$200 million for the next.
So
one,
yeah, so because of that, is Marcel gonna be rocking some Nikes or some Adidas? What's
right.
Yeah,
Some Yeezys.
Yeezys,
Yeah.
why not? Yeah.
I think Marcel is wonderfully static in his personhood, and he is not going to change even if we get a bigger budget.
I love it.
That's
I
good.
love it.
Money won't change Marcel.
That's good.
That's right.
Dean, thank you so much for your time. Again, we absolutely adore this film. I can't wait for more people to watch it. I think the world's just going to fall in love with Marcel this year. So thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun, you guys.
All right.
Thank you,
Take
Dean.
care. We'll see you soon.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.
Domee, Lindsey. My name is Daniel.
Hi.
And I'm Shabazz.
We're so honored to be able to talk with you today. And I just wanted to start off by saying that we absolutely love this movie. And we're so excited for audiences to watch it this Friday. Question for both of you. Growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s, going to a concert felt like a rite of passage. I'm curious for both of you, was there a concert or events that you felt like there was a before this and an after this?
Not for me, because I didn't get to go to any concerts. I feel like making this movie was kind of like me fulfilling my 13-year-old dreams and wishes. But I do remember like being so envious of kids at school who'd come back from like a Backstreet Boys concert, NSYNC concert, and they'd be like decked out in the merch, and they'd have like a glow about them, and I would just think, wow, they're like adults now.
Women.
They're like women now. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder what happened there. And, I imagine it.
Mine was Madonna.
Nice.
I went and saw Madonna in concert, and I was like, oh,
I'm a woman now.
I should not have been allowed to come see this concert.
Wait, how old are you?
I think I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 13 or 14. I think I was like, oh, I don't think my parents understood what was going to happen at this concert, or they would not have let me come.
I dig it.
Now, Domee, Toronto is famous for not playing itself in movies and TV, and we really loved how authentically Canadian in Toronto this movie felt and looked. Did you have to do some convincing to have it set there, or was it like from the get-go, you're like, yeah, it's Toronto?
From the get-go, it was Toronto. And I think people were excited to put it on the big. I was really excited to set this movie in Toronto and really showcase like the diversity and the color of the city. In the streets and like the schools and in May's best friend group. And it's like you said, you never really see it as itself in movies, and this was just another way to really make the film feel specific and unique.
I was saying, I don't think she'd be allowed back in to Toronto if she didn't set it here after Bow. I think everybody would been like, what?
Very true. Now, the diversity in Toronto, there's such a specific detail. Were you happy that you're able to kind of get all of what makes Toronto in the movie?
Yeah.
That was great. I'm really proud of the crowd's team for that, because actually like it's hard to do. Like variation in characters in animation is just very, very hard to do. And I think when you watch the movie, you really feel like the inhabitants, like the background characters, like May and her friends, like they all feel like they're from Toronto, and we were able to capture a lot of that diversity that you see on the streets, and that wasn't an easy job to do.
I think our character budget was like higher than any recent film for that reason. I think it was, we invested a lot in that.
It was so cool seeing like seeing the Sky Dome, or even just like seeing the CN Tower. I think Canadians get very excited, and we're very proud, especially in Toronto, when we see those type of things. I know you mentioned in the press conference that this movie, it's about you, but it's also, like you just mentioned, there's things in it that May gets to kind of have some wish fulfillment on your end. Why was now the right time to tell the story at Pixar?
Oh, yeah. I mean, back in 2017, when Pixar approached me to pitch 3 ideas for a feature film, like I knew that I had to do a coming of age story, because I absolutely love that genre, and I really wanted to make kind of a movie for that 13-year-old me who was going through like big changes in my body and fights with my mom, just as kind of like something to let kids like that who are going through that know that like it's okay and it's normal, and that you will survive, and everyone goes goes through it. I just felt like at the time, and even now, like there aren't a lot of stories that kind of deal specifically with puberty, with girl puberty, and like how messy it is. Also, like in terms of like that in relationship with their mom too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much both for taking the time to talk with us today on the Movie Podcast. Before we finish up, just want to ask you both, what is your go-to karaoke track from the early 2000s?
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Kiss by Prince.
Oh,
Love it.
Oh.
Complicated by Avril
I don't even know
Lavigne.
if that's really
oh,
2000s.
and also Toronto as well.
Yes,
Good choice.
2002.
No, mine. I don't
Oh,
think
yours.
mine is. I think mine's like 90s. But anyway, yes, that's mine. I don't do it well, by the way.
It's okay. If you do it, that's all that matters.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you so much for your time and all the best with the rest of the press tour.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey guys.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much. Thank you so much again for taking the time to join us on the Movie Podcast today. Mike, how are you?
Yeah, great. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, you sound great. You sound great. You look
All right.
great. You have an incredible background behind you right now.
Yeah, you see some of this stuff?
That's amazing.
Got you can see kind of, you see down here, you can kind of see, and you can see Brandy Watson over there.
That's amazing.
See Arsenio as that Baba character.
Yeah,
It's just a bunch of random stuff, you know.
it's awesome.
I mean, again, first and foremost, congrats to you and your team on the Oscar nomination for Coming to America. That's
Thanks so much.
what did it feel like hearing your names announced?
Oh, I was freaking out. You know, I thought it was like, you know, I mean, look, you know, when you're a kid and you're into movies and stuff, and you know, it's just like the best honor for like any person. You know, look, we don't do the work. At least I don't do the work for awards. I don't try to, you know, to do that kind of thing. But if it gets recognized, cool. You know, it's awesome. I'm pumped. You know, but you know, my philosophy really is just the best work you possibly can. Just for your soul, man. You know, just like, you know, you too. You don't want to do some happy podcasts. You want to make it the best you can. You know.
Yeah.
Who was your first phone call once you found out?
Man, it was so early. I don't think I called anyone. I don't know. I don't really know, to be honest. Sort of a blur.
I bet.
I think this is my first phone call now. Talking.
Oh,
That's amazing. Well, we're honored to have you. Thank you.
100%. Now, Mike, you've worked on so many iconic characters, from the Joker to the Many Saints of Newark, and of course, Coming to America. When you're working on creating these characters, where do you start? What do you reference? What's your workflow?
Okay, well, the first thing I usually get is a call from like a producer or an actor or something, and then we talk about what it is. Let's say Coming to America, I got Eddie's producer and assistant contacted me and told me the project. Obviously, I knew the project, so I had her visit my studio, and we talked, and we just went through what was needed in the on the job, and obviously, I wanted to do it. That's Coming to America is like one of my favorite films ever. Especially Rick Baker's makeup on Eddie Murphy for the Saul character, which is just basically, it's it's like an iconic makeup. It was one of the best makeups ever done on film. Not only changing the color, the race, just everything. It was just all in good fun, and the voice and everything. It's just like the ultimate comedy character. So I mean, I think it starts like that. It starts like with a conversation. It starts with, are we going to vibe kind of thing, which a lot of people don't talk about, this kind of aspect of it. People will say, oh, you start with sculpting and stuff. No, you have to start with really like the philosophy of your approach. How are you going to do this? Why are you the right studio? Like a lot of the times people come to me in the studio because I provide something different. I have relationships with people, actors and things like that. And I think that I'm viable. What I say, I 99% of the time pull off. So that's a good thing. And that was built up many, many years in the making. So, but technically we start off with photographs. We start out with a life cast. after that process is over, now we're 3D scanning. Now we're 3D scanning actors, so they don't really have to go through a life casting process, which is really like this, you mix up rubber and you put it all over their head and, plaster bandage and stuff like that. We're going more into a, higher tech version of scanning, 3D printing, a more true representation of someone's face, so that when we do sculpt whatever we're making, whether it be a werewolf, old age makeup or something like that, we have the absolute most accurate, representation of the actor's form, because within a makeup on the inside is exactly the person's face on the inside. So it fits so custom. So it's really important to have a really great form under there. That's like the jumping starting point. That's just like an Olympic swimmer or something, like having perfect diving, perfect, it's like you start right and then everything else is just better each time you the next process.
I love that.
So that's where we start.
That's amazing. Is 3D printing like something that's been utilized, like that's new to the industry in terms of getting things done real quickly?
Yeah, it actually takes longer. It's easier on the actor. It's maybe the last 5 years, people, and I think now it's really kind of coming into the spectrum of all studios, because we always try to preserve the actor's time and the comfort. So I think it's gotten to a point where, the uncomfortable aspect of the live cast situation has been kind of lessened. So the scanning is done in like 5-10 minutes max, and they just stand there, eyes open, everything's cool. And then we most of the time don't need a life cast, and if we do, we'll do like a section or something, just for skin texture or for reference. But I think it's a new thing, and I think it's rapidly advancing 3D printing technology, which is huge.
Just as a follow-up, do you find it harder to age an actor like in True Detective or Coming to America, or to disfigure them like in The Undoing or The Weekend in Sacrifice?
Well, each job is different. I always approach everything different. I think they're all super difficult. I can't say something's like super easy. But I think really like the hardest stuff are the most realistic things, because people know what that stuff looks like. If I do an old age makeup and it kind of looks funky, like any novice can be like, that's fake.
Right.
So that's really the hardest to convince. And even though Coming to America was hyper real makeups, they also have a bit of fun with it and a caricatured kind of vibe, like a new character on Arsenio Hall, Baba, his name was, his long dreadlock, like witch doctor type dude.
Yeah.
He he's like a hyper realistic Muppet, like he's got a goofy, hunching over thing. His voice is really funny. His teeth are missing, his contact lenses are all cataract, and kind of wild. So it's probably more fun to do those types of characters. Obviously The Weekend is fun anyway, just because we're friends, and it's just he's into movies and he's into effects, so that's just like fun overall. But the funny thing is, like, we did a makeup, his this old age thing, and he didn't, he does stuff like this, like he didn't tell me at all, and the next time I see that makeup is like on the cover of his album, so it was like, I think he just planned it once he saw the photos of like, yo, that's the album cover. And I never saw it until it came out. And I was like, damn, like, cool. I wanted to know,
Yeah. And that's actually what we were going to ask. Like, we're a Toronto-based show, so like seeing like you working with The Weeknd has been such a cool collab for that to happen. What was it like? Like, obviously you said you were friends. What was it like working together and kind of bringing that cinematic, presence to like the music world?
Yeah, well, he's super cool. I know he's the Toronto man, and I just got along with him right off the bat. He's a huge film buff, so I went over to his place. He's got this Videodrome poster, David Cronenberg, another Canadian, it's like, I'm a huge fan of that because Rick Baker did all the effects in that, so I know all about it. So it was like, all right, we're best buddies, you know. It was like, you know, we you know, are right on the same page, you know. So I think that's one of his favorite films, and it's one of my favorite films. So it was just kind of like, okay, we can do all this cool stuff, you know. And we talk. He's like, "Did you see this movie?" Yeah, I saw that movie. No, I never saw it. So we're always like, you know, trying to, you know, kind of learn off each other, and then, okay, well, can we do this thing like this film? Why don't we do that? You know, and it, you know, and he's open to it. He's cool. He's a real artist, you know. So it's a cool collaboration.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then yeah, like that artwork for Dawn FM, like that's iconic now. Like that's forever going to be like remembered. Kind of
Cool stuff, man.
throwing it back like to the movie side, like for us, like you, like we're huge film nerds. We love watching behind the scenes of films growing up, and like I just remember like watching behind the scenes like Jurassic Park and like Terminator and Aliens, even up to like to Iron Man. Like Stan Winston is somebody that I always like that comes to mind. Was there like a movie for you growing up that was kind of like a light switch that was like, this is the world I need to be in, this is what I need to be doing with my life?
Yeah, well, actually, the first film I ever saw was The Elephant Man. You know, and I was like 4 years old, and it was David Lynch film. And you know, at that time, I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. You know, I'm still like learning how to speak and shit. You know, so you know, one of the first like images in my brain is just like monstrous dude's head. You know, it's like freaked out face. But you know, like it was a beautiful film. It's a masterpiece. That movie, David Lynch, is one of my favorite films, one of his best films. And the funny thing is, like, actually Mel Brooks produced that film, and not a lot of people know that. But that movie was so like disturbing for me that really kind of sent me in like, okay, I'm scared of this face. You know? And a few years later, Michael Jackson's Thriller came out, and they showed the making of Thriller, which had Rick Baker in it, showing you know, the Videodrome head, like actually like Michael Jackson's holding split open head from Videodrome, you know. So and he's in his studio, and they show Rick doing Michael Jackson's life cast and then sculpting and then gluing the makeup on. And at that point, that was like, okay, it's fake. I want to do that. I want to be just like Rick Baker, you know. So it became like my absolute obsession at that point. I taped that. You guys are too young, but when VCRs were only option, you know, you would take, you know, blank tape and tape the shit. So in 1983, you know, when that came out, I was, you know, taping that. So we taped it off MTV because they played it constantly.
Yeah.
So taped it. I watched that thousands of times, like to the point where I have memorized like every little thing, you know. So it really was like, okay, this is an obsession for me. So that really was like the switch there.
How do you find working like with prosthetics and makeup versus what we're seeing a lot now done with CG? Like where, like, does your work, do you go hand in hand? Because like I think of something like The Irishman, where you worked on The Irishman, but they also did a lot of de-aging through CG on that.
Yeah, I mean, look,
the world's kind of melded that.
Yeah, that stuff's. I think at this point, it's really like a director's choice.
Right.
You know, it's just another tool. You know, prosthetics and effects are a tool. CG is a tool. You know, some people really like to do CG stuff, so they don't have to like fuck around on set or anything, or just do minimal preparation. But I also feel like that's somewhat of a cop-out too, and it's laziness and planning.
Sure.
And a lot of the directors, you know, I mean, there's so many great directors out there, but there's also directors kind of don't know what they're doing, you know, and they're like, I don't know how this works, and I don't know, you know, so it's like, you suck. I don't want to work with you. You know, so I want to work with the people that really know about film, know about effects, you know, and then it's a conscious choice. It's like, you know, do I want a Ferrari? Do I want fucking Bentley? I mean, they're both different. They're both effects or cars or whatever. They're different. You know, they do different stuff, you know? So it's like, I think it's a director's choice. And the cool thing is, like, someone like Jon Favreau really utilizes both aspects of practical effects, digital effects, and he's a geek too. So he knows that people tend to really attach themselves to practical things like masks, makeup, animatronic things, and certain CG things that when you need CG, you know, there's like no way we can do that kind of stuff, you know? So he really blends all that stuff together. And I think that's coming from a fan perspective on his part, you know, and practicality too. Like, can we do this? Can we do that? You know, George Lucas had actually said, you know, I don't know why there's something to a mask, even though you know it's fake, even though you know it's phony, and CG too, that's phony too. He said, you know, I don't know why, but people just tend to like that practical stuff more. I can't understand it, you know, but it's true. I think it has something to do with photographing something that's there, having a natural reaction when you're seeing it. You know, and I love CG effects too, and that really is so advanced, amazing. Not knocking that at all, but you know, I think it's really just like a tool. It's like, do you want to paint with an airbrush or a paintbrush? You know, it's like they're both serving a purpose. I think they're both really good right now, technically, technologically with our field, and technologically with CG stuff. I mean, it's like anything too. It's like you have a studio that's really good, and then you have a studio in your same business that sucks, and it looks crappy. You know, same with CG too. You have great effects studios, and then you have like people that are phoning it in. You know, so it's like, it's not like digital and then practical. It's really becomes an individual orchestration of art direction. You know, and you know, so I think that it's become a choice to use effects, use makeup effects. And, you know, someone like The Weeknd in particular loves makeup stuff. You know, he loves effects. So obviously he's going to attract himself to doing more of that type of stuff.
Right. And it's cool because like you said, like, it's not like makeup and prosthetics are like considered old, because you guys are also innovating in how you're doing that too, right? So like everything is always evolving as well. I got to ask you, of course, like we got to talk about the Batman. You're working with Colin Farrell, and it's funny because every interview I've been watching with Colin Farrell, he's been saying, you know, he's on the Mike Marino press tour, which is funny. You know,
it's great.
His work, like, and his look in that is like we've never seen it before. You know, the Penguin is like kind of like we've never seen him before, and very different from how we saw him in the Tim Burton Batman Returns, which Stan Winston worked on. You know, what was it like creating this version of Oswald Cobblepot?
You know, I read the script. I spoke to Matt. I think we were on the same page on who he was. And I had really strong opinions on how he should look. And Colin, after he read the script, I believe that, you know, he didn't quite know who he was yet. And I believe that Colin learned who the Penguin was once we started doing makeup tests. You know, we did the makeup test. He looked in the mirror and his whole entire personality changed. And it was like, he told me, you know, like, okay, now I know what to do. Exactly. It was like, boom, turn a switch on and you're this crazy gangster guy, you know? So I mean, it's Matt's world is really kind of like a hyper realistic world. It's not Danny DeVito Penguin world, which is Tim Burton, which I love that film. I think it's one of the best Batman things ever. You know, it's super cool. It's fun, but it's, you know, just, you know, it's completely Tim Burton.
Right.
You know, it has you know, the music, the Danny Elfman stuff. It's got the dark, you know, the pale stuff, dark eyes, and Batman is, you know, very specific, and the Penguin has that pale eye thing. It's very signature to Tim Burton. He's amazing, great, but can't do that again, you know?
Right.
So Matt's world is more based on like a real environment, real city, you know, much like the Christian Bale, you know, Batman stuff, you know, and but it's different. It's a different. I think people will enjoy it. I think Colin, it was really like, I just work on instinct, you know, so my instincts told me to sculpt something very specifically, and let's see how Matt reacts. Let's see how DC reacts. Let's see how Warner Brothers reacts. Let's see how Colin reacts. You know, so it's just kind of like go all in, like ballsy, and here's what I feel like it should be. And me and Matt have really good collaboration with each other. So we were just super open phone calls. He's a huge David Lynch fan, so we were all like fucking talking about films and stuff for 3 hours, you know, and so it was like we were on the same page, you know, and I showed that stuff, and it was like, okay, wait, this is Colin, that's Colin. I was like, yeah, you know, we can do this, do this. He was just like, fuck, that's cool, that's cool, I love it, you know. So it became like, I did a little bit of like show and tell kind of thing through pictures of sculptures and things, but I think it was right. It all kind of came together, and then when we did the makeup tests, it worked.
It looks incredible. It looks absolutely incredible.
Cool. Thank you.
The process for you to work can take hours, and you just said that going through it with Colin, he became the Penguin once he started to get into the makeup. Did he become the Penguin from then on throughout the different?
Oh yeah, he knew right away.
Like,
yeah, he was like, boom,
all the time.
I mean, when he was in the makeup, you know, he's that guy. You know, it was so fun. That's the thing. I mean, it was fun to be that guy. And it's way more fun than me or than him. You know, I mean, to be that guy, it's fun as hell. You know, so he was right into character, man. You know, it's just like a switch. It's really cool.
Is there anything you're working on right now that you can share with our audience?
No, not really. We're definitely doing some cool stuff. Some more things with The Weeknd, I could say.
Awesome.
Wicked.
More and more. But film wise, I can't say anything yet, but there's some cool stuff. There's cool stuff out there.
Stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to this year? Like from projects outside of what you've kind of been working on, movie shows, is there anything that you've been watching or you're looking forward to watching this year?
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what to expect, to be honest. I'm just waiting on Batman. You know, I don't really know what else is coming out. I don't really follow up on a lot of things. I kind of hide and just, you know, make stuff and just kind of in my own world. But I'm open to everything, you know. I don't know what's coming out. You guys who know more than me, tell me what's coming out.
We're just Batman on the brain 100% right now. We're seeing it tomorrow. Yeah. So we're just can't wait to see what you've been up to and what Matt's been doing, and it's going to be special. I think it's going to really be special.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a new take, and it's fun, man. I mean, it's I think it has potential to be popular and big and do more.
Definitely.
So we'll see.
Mike, thank you so much again for your time. We don't want to take up too much of it today. We're so excited to see what you work on next, and we really hope to see you on the podium next month. So thank you again.
Yeah, cool. Thanks so much. Good talking to you guys.
You too, man. Take care. Stay safe, man.
Take care.
See you, Canada.
Hi, Key. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Anthony.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. How's your day going?
Oh, it's great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, it's our honor. And I just want to say, of course, we loved Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it has not left our minds since we watched it. How did you get involved with the film, and how did the Daniels begin to even explain this movie to you?
Well, you know, it was really interesting because, as you know, I stepped away from acting for many, many years, over 2 decades, to be exact. And I was content doing that until 2018, when a little movie called The Crazy Rich Asians came out.
Yes.
And I watched it in the theaters, and I cried every time I saw it, because not only because it was a great story with amazing characters, but also I had serious FOMO. I wanted to be up on the screen with my fellow Asian actors.
Right.
And that was when the idea of getting back to acting started taking place. And I called up an Asian friend of mine, asked him if he wanted to represent me. This is after decades without an agent.
Wow.
He said yes. And literally 2 weeks later, I got a call about this project.
Wow.
And I was amazed. And I read the script. I loved it. I loved it because it was I don't remember when the last time I read a script that featured a Chinese family with amazing characters. And you know, I fell in love with it, and I wanted this role so bad. And I went into audition for the Daniels. Thought I did a really good job. Left there and didn't hear from them for 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
And so any hope of me landing this role was completely gone. Then I got a second call. I went in and auditioned for them the second time. Again, thought I did really well. Walked out and saw another Asian actor waiting in the lobby to read for the same role. And I mean, he was just like taller, better looking. He was in a suit. He looked like he walked out of a GQ magazine.
Right.
And I was so disappointed. I went home, called my agent, and I said, man, I tried so hard, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. And 3 weeks later, I got that call. And it was one of the happiest calls I've ever gotten in my life.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so thrilled. And you know, and then I met with the Daniels. They told me about, you know, what the vision is for this. And you know, even when I read the script, I understood it. They you know, they gave me a note. They said, make sure you watch Swiss Army Man first before you read the script, so you can understand their, you know, their sensibilities and stuff. And I got it. You know, it was such a heartfelt, crazy, outrageous, you know, wild, original story. And I was very curious to see how they would realize the words on the page onto the screen.
Right.
And to be on set and witness that was really amazing.
And I think, listen, like you looked pretty dashing in this film too when you were wearing a suit. So that looks straight out of a GQ magazine as well. So we've got to say that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, it's really funny too, because for many years I worked for Wong Kar-wai, and you know, and the Daniels are big fans of Wong Kar-wai, and you can see, you know, we do homages to him in this movie, in the movie star universe. So for all those years I was in Hong Kong working for Wong Kar-wai, I was behind the camera watching Tony Leung do his things in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And never in my wildest dream did I think I would get that chance to step in front of the camera and pay homage to one of my favorite filmmakers of all time.
And you got to, you know, speaking of Crazy Rich Asians as well, you got to work with Michelle Yeoh so soon after that, which is amazing. She's such a lovely person.
She is. You know, she did her first movie in 1984. I also did my first movie in 1984. So we both started in the same business, but just in different parts of the world. And I waited 38 years to unite with her on screen. And it was certainly a dream come true for me.
That's amazing. Wow. What was it like watching your movie on the screen? Like, what was it like seeing, you know, this film that you've first film coming back for a very long time, and then seeing yourself on the screen and then actually experiencing this cinema? Because this is the first time for us. This was the first movie we've experienced something like this before. So I want to know your take. Like, how did you feel coming out of it?
You know, I remember the very first time I watched myself up on the screen. It was at the Man Chinese Theater when we premiered Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. I was not allowed to watch any footage while we were making that movie.
Oh, wow.
So the very first time I saw it was up on that screen when it was at our premiere, you know, fully edited with sound and music. And that moment I remember distinctly because that was when I fell in love with movie making. It was also when I fell in love with acting. And I stepped away for so long. I was really nervous when we debuted our movie at South by Southwest. And watching it, seeing myself up on the big screen was really incredido. I was very emotional because this was what I wanted to do for a long time, but I didn't get the opportunity. So to be able to see myself up there was great. I mean, I feel like that's where I belong. But I remember when I stepped in front of the camera for the first time after all these years, I was so happy. You know, there was a sense of familiarity.
Right.
All those memories, all those wonderful memories that I had when I was a kid came rushing back.
Right.
And I'm so grateful to the Daniels for giving me this amazing opportunity, for gifting me this moment. I mean, I have no idea how I got here. Honestly, I'm still processing all of this. And I mean, honestly, I was really nervous because I didn't know how the audience would react. Would they embrace my return, or would they think I suck, haven't done it for so long? I was really nervous. But so to hear, and read all these wonderful comments from everybody, from the audience, has just been so heartwarming, and it brought tears to my eyes many times.
I have to say, you're the reason I went to go watch this film, because I haven't seen you act for so long, and I'm like, where did he go? Where is he? I want to see him for the first time in so long. You're the one who actually brought me to watch this movie, and I just want to let you know that. And you did an amazing job.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is where you belong. You do belong on that screen, and I think like in your being when you're supposed to be doing something, and this is 100% what you're supposed to be doing, and that's why we're just so happy to be able to talk to you today. So thank you, and we're fanboying out a little bit too. But
100%.
So when you saw it at South by Southwest, was that the first time you'd seen it on a screen, and there was also a big crowd there to watch it? So what did it feel like seeing it with the crowd and seeing it for that, like with everybody and their reactions to it?
The very first time I saw it was a cast and crew screening. And it was the first time. It's kind of difficult as an actor watching yourself up there, because you it's hard to be objective. And a lot of the memories making of that movie come rushing in when you first watch it. It was really at South by Southwest I was able to watch it as from an objective point of view, and also it was also our first time to watch it with an audience member.
Right.
And it was incredible. I mean, they laughed at all the jokes. They clapped after every fight sequence. It was the most amazing reception we could ever ask for. It was a memorable night.
And you play a bunch of different multiversal versions of yourself in this movie. Did you have a favorite one that you got to play? Did you have a favorite character within that movie that you got to play of yourself?
I love all three. I feel like I made 3 movies in one.
Yeah.
I feel so lucky, I love all 3. And honestly, I mean, to prepare myself for this role, it was a physically demanding role.
Right.
But second, the more challenging was the emotional aspect of these 3 different characters. And I had 3 months of prep time, and I really dig it deep within me, and just really look back at my life, all those memories of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, the good times, the bad times, and all of that. And I poured my entire life into these 3 different characters.
Right.
So I don't have a favorite. I love them all because they're all me.
They're all you.
And then also, I have to give a shout out to Wayman in this universe, just because of what he stands for. He truly believes in empathy, kindness, and treating each other with respect. And
Right.
It's really something that we all need right now in this trying times. Yeah.
You're so right. Did you have so I know you watched Swiss Army Man to prepare for this film. Was there any other films or shows that you were watching to kind of get into the mindset of this character?
No, I didn't want to, because we tend to imitate stuff that we like. And this project meant so much to me. I wanted it to be my own, especially for Wayman, because I felt, honestly, had they given me this role 10, 15 years ago, I don't think I could have done it. I don't think I was mature enough, or I didn't have the enough life experience.
Right.
But I felt that I had enough, over decades of being in this business, and so I wanted it to be my own version, and that's why I didn't watch a single movie during the entire shoot of the movie.
Wow.
I wanted it to see parts of myself, parts of my life, and that's what I want you guys to see.
Yeah, and we really did, and we're just so thankful again for your time today. And from all of us at the Movie Podcast. Thank you so much, and we can't wait to see what you get to work on next. And I'm really hoping there's lots more of you for us to see, because we're just so happy you're back and making amazing movies. And this movie was so lovely. It's going to be hard to top this movie for us this year. So again, we just want to say thank you so much again for joining us today.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
Key.
Brennan, good morning. Sam, good morning. Thanks so much for your time and for being here at TIFF. Brennan, you're wonderful in this film. And Sam, beautifully written film. I'm just curious, Brennan, for yourself, you spent so much time living as Charlie, and I'm just curious, after being in a film like this, what do you take back with you? Is there anything that you take from Charlie that you now apply to your own life?
It's an incredibly strong person, not just physically, to inhabit a human body that has that corporal composition. Because when, yes, it was a laborious process to get into, or to have all of that application, living it throughout the day. It was appropriately not comfortable, cumbersome, but that all was what Charlie had on board. And to take it off at the end of the day, it I don't know if the term is, I mean, it gave me a sense of if it's like survivor's guilt light or something. Like I could walk away from that after an hour. And interestingly, although, all the appliances were off, I still had this vertigo. Like when you step from a boat onto a dock, that sort of undulating sense. And so I felt that I was living that man's existence for however many hours a day we did this. I think it gave me an appreciation viscerally for those who live with obesity in this way. And the story itself struck all the notes in my heart and empathy about what it feels like to be overlooked or mocked or shut away and forgotten about, and the ramifications of how that affects your personal life. I mean, clearly Charlie is a man who, yes, has no small measure of regret, but he still does have hope that he can reconnect with his daughter while he is running out of time, to let her know that he loves her. And she has a very shrill voice when he says actually, that noise was Sadie sings. Spirit animal.
She's here with us.
When she had to deal with her dad.
Now,
did that answer your question?
it did. Yes, it did. Thank you.
You got it.
Now, Brandon, you said that parts like this don't come around too often. At 53, at this stage in your career, how do you think you were able to, at the best point in your life, to tackle this kind of role?
I'm at
the best point in your life to tackle this role.
Look, I've had so many diverse opportunities and movies I've made. I've gone stretched in lots of different directions. I mean, clearly on paper, this is an actor's role that distinguishes itself from so much that I've done or have seen done. And to have the authenticity of it protected by Darren Aronofsky and Sam Winter's award-winning play and screenplay, I can't think of any actor worth his weight in salt in my peer group that wouldn't want to pay attention to being a part of that. And I feel I still pinch myself that I was lucky enough to be the guy to get the job.
I understand that you worked with the Obesity Action Coalition, and I was just wondering how that came about, like whose idea it was to work with them,
I don't know.
How involved they got in? Did they get to read the script ahead of time? And what did you take away after working from them that maybe your perceptions changed?
When did it start? Do you know?
I actually don't know. It was really from the beginning when we first started. I developed a script with Darren over many, many years. Right. When we finally were sort of like, okay, I think we might be doing this, we brought them on very early on. And we did a special screening for them a long time ago. And I feel like that was like 5 or 6 months ago, like a very early cut of the film. Because we just, wanted to make, look, this comes from a very personal place for me. I in part wrote this because I grew up gay in North Idaho, and I went to a very religious school that taught that people like me shouldn't exist. And eventually I started self-medicating with food. And I continued for a really long time. And of course, that's not everybody's story. He's big. There's plenty of people out there who are big and happy and healthy. That wasn't my story. And that's not the story I decided to tell. So I think it was just very, very important to us early on that we brought in the OAC as a partner to make sure that we brought a level of authenticity to this beyond my lived experience.
Their concerns are legitimate, that we wouldn't be making a film that would compromise them, that would make them feel as if they were now seeing on the big screen the manifestation of the story of their lives that they've had to live, that put them in such a state that they can't feel like they can get away from their challenges. And it was a process of meeting with individuals who had lived with obesity, had bariatric procedures, but were going to. They gave me their stories, their testimonials in the most candid way that it was moving. It was moving to learn. And I'm no, demographic psychologist or anything, but I noticed from person to person who I spoke to, and it was at least between 8 and 10, like Zoom calls that winter, that their journey began with someone early in their life who was quite cruel to them, verbally, made them feel horrible about who they were. And sadly, I noticed it was often a man, it was often their father. From what among the 8 or 10 people that I spoke to, what that just let me know is it's true. Years and years ago in Bangkok, I was at a temple, massive, huge golden Buddha, and a plaque out front said, "Painful indeed is vindictive speech." That stayed with me. Words have meaning. And to break the cycle, I felt duty bound to tell this story, not in a Hollywood way that put actors in costumes and suits and makeup that defy gravity to be a one-note joke. And also because with their support, we needed to take a risk to do this. Art is about taking a risk. We're not going to please everyone. I don't anticipate it, but I do feel confident that by story's end, this one, I believe that some hearts and minds could be changed. Not everyone, but some. And I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Yep.
To you both, the film is brilliant. It's incredible. It's heartbreaking. It is loving. There's a joy and a sadness and parts where it's funny. Like it's incredible. It's incredible for just from start to finish, from the script to the performances. And I was wondering, maybe this is a question that can't be answered, but one of the lines that shook me was, "People are amazing." And we live in a time where we continue to find out that people are not amazing. So how do we hold on to that? And I was wondering, like, is that something that you believe?
I believe it. I believe Charlie believes that because he's an optimist. Essentially, he has a secret superpower, which is to see the good in others, to bring that out in them, even when they don't know that about themselves. I mean, as an educator, it's his job, sure, but that's the tragedy, is he's overlooked that in his own family and the regrets he has for the relationship that could have been with his ex-wife, with his daughter. And I mean, that's the journey that we must go on. I mean, attached to that line, Charlie says before then, he said, do you believe that we can save each other? No, people are amazing.
People, yeah. Do you ever get the feeling people are
incapable of not caring? Do you ever get that feeling? And I think that's something that we could use a lot more of in our world.
We live in such deeply cynical times, and I've never been a cynical person. I've never been a cynical writer. And this way, maybe even more so than any of my others. And I think as a result, like, as a writer, and I think Darren as a filmmaker too, we're just kind of opening a door and inviting you inside. And we're not going to grab you and drag you in with the tricks, with like plot gymnastics or visual effects or, none of the things that you normally would drag an audience to the door. So, as such, I think I'm just opening the door and inviting you inside. And I think the trick is like, if you're going to meet that with a furrowed brow, then we're kind of at an impasse, you and I.
Right? Yeah.
But if you have just a little bit of faith and walk through that door, I'm hoping that we can like have a rewarding experience together. Because I'm a humanist through and through. I do believe that people are amazing. And I actually think that that's the harder choice to make. Cynicism is easy. Believing in nothing is really easy. Having faith in people is hard. And I think that's ultimately what the story is about, is hard-won faith in other people.
Sam, for yourself and Brandon, I mean, the reaction that this film got at Venice was amazing. That standing ovation was so, just heartwarming to see. I'm curious, for Brandon, when you came on board, and Sam, when you're adapting this with Darren Aronofsky for the screen, how did the film change when Brandon came on board, and how did it change when you were, working on it with Darren to now make it from a play to now a film?
I mean, it's been a really long process. It's been a decade. Darren saw the play in New York in fall of 2012.
Wow.
And I started working on this play in 2009, when I was in my 20s, living in a illegal sublet. So it's been a really long journey, but I'm really glad it took 10 years, because it took 10 years to figure out how to make it the right way.
Right.
And at the core of that was who is Charlie, and I feel so personally connected to Charlie and this story, and it was hard for me to write. It came from a very vulnerable place, and I was terrified about who we were going to give it to. But from the moment that Brendan read the screenplay in a little theater in the East Village about a week before COVID hit, I felt completely safe in his arms. And continue to feel so safe.
Sadie Sake was there too, by the way.
She was.
She was incredible. One another until we walked into the door. She's
a virtuosic actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a front row seat.
I hated her so much. You're so rude.
Imagine how much pain that portrait is.
Yeah, no, it's true.
That she's manifesting that through. That's from rage. And that performance could have been compromised by the trope of the angsty teenagers walking in the door. But she showed utterly prescient her talent. Go and explain that one away. I don't know how to. It just is what it is. And on top of that, she her character shows up with a lot of questions that will not be ignored. And that's a testament to his writing.
Yeah. Now, fans are so excited for your comeback with Renaissance trending on TikTok.
I just see, like, we're in Italy, and I'm looking up and looking at paintings on ceilings, and I'm just like seeing myself.
How does it feel to be embraced by your fans in the 90s, but also not this new next generation?
It's kind of cool because everybody has kids of their own now, and they were kids back when I was just hoping that nobody found me out yet. You know? So it warms my heart for sure. I appreciate it. It's eye-opening for me, to be straight up honest. And I'm keen for that set who, however they know me from previously, that look, I'm a different guy now, and that was then. I feel different. I look different. I'm a kid who's got special needs. Is going to be 20 soon. My other son's going to be a senior in high school. My other kid's going to get a driver's license, and he picked up a guitar and he can shred now. And you know, I feel like I've grown up some too. So putting that gravity of you know, our lives that we have to work to play a part that's not as mass-produced or easily digestible in its pop culture fare, is everything I'm looking for, or was looking for in this. Who knows what the future's going to come? I hear Batgirl is great. You can laugh.
We heard it in
It hurt. I was there. I was there. Leslie was freaking amazing. I will say that she's the real deal. But look, we're here to talk about the whale. Thank you for that, and I'm grateful for the support. That's the short answer to that.
Well, we came in this morning just quoting lines from Bedazzled and Mummy. So thank you for that.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
Came in, I thought, should I say hi, Steve Nebraska, or should I just leave it? Let's
just
leave it.
As long as you're calling me. Call me whenever you want.
Sam's questions for you. I was wondering, so you said it's a 10-year process,
Yeah.
even more when you actually wrote it originally, but knowing that it was going to become a play, come a movie, and you knew that Darren Aronofsky, who is an incredibly stylistic director, but you have a single location, I mean, Mother was single location, but this is
Very different.
really single location.
Yeah, it's very different movies.
Was there a particular scene that you were excited to see how Darren would interpret it and put it onto the screen, or a particular line of dialogue or anything like that you were just excited to see what he was going to do with it?
I mean, I was excited about the whole thing. I mean, I feel like when he called me, you know, he said, let's meet and let's talk about making The Whale into a screenplay. I was an off-Broadway, I still am an off-Broadway kid, you know, I mean, this is a very different world for me. And so I was really anxious about it because I just didn't know what to expect. I think I bought Final Draft to write this. And I guess I came into it thinking like, oh, I guess he's going to want to do that thing of like opening it up. And I was really nervous about that because I was like, well, what is that? You know, like to like follow other characters.
It's a different story.
It's a different story. Yeah. And I was like, A, I don't know if the story warrants that, and B, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it with integrity. But very, very early on, Darren was like, let's keep it in the room. And that was like the moment for me where I was like, oh, okay, he gets it.
Yeah.
And we both want to make the same thing. And so really like when I saw the first cut, you know, I was on set the entire time working with everybody very closely, but I wasn't part of the editing process. And so, you know, I walked into a theater like with sweaty palms, just like, okay, what's this going to be? But like 5 minutes in, I was like, oh, he did it. You know, like it's exactly what I hoped it would be. I knew that Brendan's performance was, I saw it every day. It was a thing to behold. It was a marvel, but you just don't know what's going to happen in the editing room. And once I saw it for the first time, I think I walked out of the screening room and I waited to call my husband, and he was really nervous about it too. So he was like, "Why are you not calling?" and I just kind of walked down the block because I just needed the moment. And then finally I called him and I just burst into tears. I feel
you. I couldn't get out of my chair.
Yeah.
Just thinking, I need to gather myself here. And thinking, this could change some hearts and minds. I mean, I that's an altruistic notion, but I thought people are going to have to reorient the patterns of thinking that they brought into before seeing this film. They'll be thinking twice about it after they leave. It had such an impression on me. It just made me feel like this could do a lot of good. Yeah. It could do a lot of good. And movies are distractions, they're entertainment, and I get it. But this it fed my soul.
Just as we wrap up, and honestly, it's such an honor to speak with you both. It really is. I was wondering if you talk about the power of one true thing. This is all the way through. Charlie's just tell me one true thing. Just write something honest. I mean, you talk about changing that hit me. That was eye-opening for me. I was just wondering for you both, the power of something honest, the power of one true thing.
Weirdly, I think in 2022, more so than when I wrote the play, the idea of truth and honesty, I think is becoming really important. I think that, we live in really cynical times. We live in a time where people are incredibly guarded. They don't want to, they don't want to open up. They don't want to be honest with each other. They stick to their sides, or, they stick to their patterns. And I think that this movie is just in a very simple way asking for people to, that's what I said before, like please just walk in the door.
And just see it.
Yeah.
And ask yourself that question too, because at the heart of it all is authenticity.
Yeah.
From the creation of Charlie himself to what he says and what he feels, and the hope that you attach that his journey will be complete, and the breathlessness you have up until the last moment of this film. Look, it's powerful stuff. You know that already. Thanks for asking.
Thanks for answering.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for your time. It's phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Email him that file now.
Yeah.
If you email us back, we'll email that file.